questions. Let me see. 2 on this side. Let's start on this side, please. And then I have 1 behind the camera there. We'll take them in batches of 3. Pardon? Also here, okay. If you had your hand up first time, I won't skip you, believe me. Okay, we have 3 on this row. We'll keep it local. Then the next batch I'll go to there's 1, 2. Well, you can't ask too many questions. I thought this is clear. The chief risk officer is fired. Meeting closed. What's your problem? Hey, man, come on. You like detail, you auditors. Okay, let's get the first question.
Okay. Thanks, Program Director. This was a good audit committee simulated meeting. I just want to check, these are audit committee stakeholders. When you evaluate the effectiveness of audit committee, these are, except that the CRO and the CEO are not there, but these are the people you're going to look at. But in most instances, you find that Auditor General refuses to be evaluated. They will cite the issues of independency, compromise their independency. They are also doing their own evaluation. So I just want your view on that. Even during the meeting, I mean, this is the kind of audit committee meeting that I'm used to. You'll find participation across, but Auditor General will only talk when it comes to audit issues. I mean, also, can you also have a view in terms of the nature of Auditor General's participation in audit committee meeting? Thanks.
I think it was a very good role play. On observing the role play, I think the star would be the company secretary. And I think everyone will agree with me because a very good company secretary if you have a very good company secretary, you have a very effective audit committee. And you could see from the role play that the chairman relies totally on the company secretary, and she gives a good summation at each point as well. I think well done.
All right, that's good feedback there. And the third question is down.
Thank you. My name is Sabata. My questions really are matters of eliciting best practice. This has been a very good simulation and a learning curve for me. To the company secretary, normally, ordinarily, to use recording machine in addition to manual recording. That's my first question. And to the chair, how has the pre-talks about these talks helped you direct the direction of the meeting? Now, my second question is about board reporting again to the company secretary. Now, how do you report these proceedings to the board? Do you give them the minutes, copies of the minutes, or do you summarize them and then? And secondly, how do you take custody of the minutes of this company secretary of these proceedings?
All right. Let me stop you there because I wouldn't like you loading with many questions. Let them answer them first.
Okay.
I'll take other questions, and if the time permits, I'll come back to you, please.
Okay.
I'm actually going to ask them to start with yours.
Oh.
While they are fresh, because the other one was a commendation, and the first one I will ask Mr. Msivi from the Auditor General to answer. He's in our midst. He can give a more authoritative answer, right? All right, let's start with Sabata's questions, please.
Okay, thank you, Program Director. I just wanted to thank my gentleman on the other side for the commendation that you've given me. I think if I would be sitting here and Willis wouldn't get that recommendation, I think I would be fired, so thank you. Just on the question to you, my brother, the recordings of the meetings in terms of best practice, I'm happy to tell you that the proceedings of this meeting was recorded. So what we normally do is we record the proceedings of the meetings, and then we keep the record. When we present the minutes to the next meeting and the minutes are approved, then the minutes become the legal document for the meeting, and then we destroy the recording. So after they've confirmed the proceedings of the meeting in the next meeting, so this meeting has been recorded. How do I report the proceedings of the meeting? I'm going to sit tonight and write the report for the chairman of the audit committee with all the issues that have been raised, with all the recommendations that have been made for the board to take approval of, and also for the board to take note of, and also for the CEO to answer the questions. So also tonight, I'll also send the CEO some of the questions that were asked by the members so that the CEO is prepared in the board meeting when the chairman of the audit committee is giving report back. And therefore, that helps the governance process in the reporting for the board meetings. How do I take custody of the minutes? I own the minutes to an extent that I make sure that it details the proceedings of the meetings. However, the responsibility of ownership of the meetings and the minutes is of the audit committee, because it's their responsibility, it's their proceedings, it's their discussions, and therefore they need to ensure that the minutes reflect the conversations of the meeting, it reflects the recommendations, it reflects the resolutions in a proper way that they can use it 5 years down the line when there is a dispute. So my custody is mainly to make sure that it's kept in a safe place, that it is recorded appropriately. I'm not sure if I answered all your questions, sir. I'm delighted. Thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Msibi, where are you? Don't be fooled. I can be very visible here, but I can't see very clearly. Oh, yeah. Don't blame me. I'm an impressionist. I like to be seen. Okay, there you go. The man from the Auditor General's office will give us a, why do you not like to be evaluated?
Thanks, Program Director. Let me make an attempt and answer this one, perhaps to give a brief background. Evaluation was done before, a few years back, but it came up with a lot of issues where you find that the opinion is not really positive. But now when you get an evaluation, you know, it paints the picture that there might be objectivity issues. So, but however, from the principal level, we normally have in committee sessions with the governance structures audit committees. I think evaluation can be done at that level. We know for the fact that it's not done formally. Without really being defensive of the office, as I've indicated, at the principal level, it can be done, no issues about that.
Right.
Because when we table the audit plans and how the whole audit process was managed, I mean, it's up to the audit committee to make an appraisal if there were any issues there to that effect. Maybe to cover the second question on the participation, I'm not certain if that doesn't happen, because in my view, if you look at our dashboard report, for example, we make inputs around issues around governance, how entities are governed, issues around risk management, IT controls, how entities respond to internal controls. But it should be appreciated that from the mandate, in terms of PAA, we quite limited in terms of making contributions where it might affect issues of government policy, so to speak. So our main contribution is mainly around financial reporting, how government resources are utilized, safeguarding of assets, risk management, etc. But there's quite a very thin line where we shouldn't be seen as making decisions for management, particularly around policy matters. We don't have a mandate in terms of PAA. Thanks, Chair.
All right. Thank you. Let's keep the mic on this side, please. Next to you, there's a question, and you bring it forward and forward. So I'll take 3 questions again. And please indicate if there are more questions. I need to start pacing Okay, I see one at the back and one up down here. All right. Okay, let's take the next three and then we'll take maybe the last three.
Thank you, Program Director. I have two questions. Maybe to start with a comment. There was an observation that I've made that there was no CEO that, firstly, that was met by the chair in the pre-meeting session. And secondly, he or she was not present in the meeting. And the question then came to me to ask myself whether was the CEO invited to this meeting? Does he know his duties in terms of coming to the meeting? That's the first question. And then the second question also, I just need clarity in terms of the purpose of the in-meetings that the chair asked and the pre-meeting sessions that the chair had before the meeting started. What is the purpose? Because I thought they are trying to cover the same objective. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. Just push the mic 2 rows forward and then we sit.
Thank you. I also have two questions, very short. First one is, what's the name of the CRO? I want to make sure we don't hire him.
Good one.
No, but seriously, on the CRO, to the chair, Chair, why would you address the CRO's non-attendance with him rather than with the CEO? And then the second question is around the effectiveness of the audit and of the audit committee. You mentioned that you got a high rating on effectiveness, but you also mentioned the non-attendance of the CEO. And I wondered how the non-attendance of the CEO, being not the first time that he hasn't attended, how that is factored into its effectiveness.
Gotcha. Direct, 2 rows, and then we take answers.
Hi, I'm Lerato. I just wanted to ask, for an incoming chairperson, is it advisable to meet the secretary as one of the pre-meetings, maybe to just discuss the audit committee charter, the terms of reference, etc.? And then in terms of the in-committee, this is related to a question that was asked now. When is it appropriate and how are those proceedings recorded?
All right. I recommend we do the same. We start with the last question and we go backwards. In-committee meetings, how are they recorded? And
yeah, I think there's a few questions on the in-committee meetings. I'm going to try and cover
take
them all at
together.
once.
Even better.
I mean, regarding the appropriateness of when you should meet, I think it's always good practice to meet before every audit committee. What helps that is if, for instance, your pack gets sent out to you 10 days before the meeting, you can then set up your meeting 7 days, well in advance of that meeting coming. So you pre-read your pack, you can look at your charter, these are just guidelines, understand what you need to do, what questions you should be asking, what are your concerns personally. Sometimes it's also good to have your other audit committee members, which might be the in-committee meetings, because they might have concerns. Other people do it differently. They send all the questions to the AC chairperson and they answer that and there's a report back. But I think it's imperative to build on that relationship between external audit and yourself as a committee, between internal audit and between management. So it's a non-threatening environment. It's an open relationship, open communication channel. It's a safe environment. Sometimes you might want to say things that you're not sure how to put it politely in a meeting. You don't want to offend anyone as well. Could be as simple as that. Sometimes there may be a concern that you just want to raise in a safe and comfortable environment. So I think those meetings should always happen. But obviously you need to have the documentation to have an effective engagement in those meetings.
But their status is what?
The status is, it is a pre-meeting.
So it's not a meeting?
It's, well...
In other words, you can't say, I told you at the pre-meeting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
All right.
Can I offer also another solution, is that when the pre-meetings are mainly during your interim results and your financial year end results. So when you have the pre-meetings, you talk about any issues that they would feel the external auditors did not raise in their report. So you asked specifically that question. And then when you were pre-meeting with your internal auditors, you also asking the question with regards to their impairment in terms of the own internal control assessment, because you do an internal financial control assessment. That's why those pre-meetings are very important during the interim results and the financial results. The in-meetings, that is after the audit committee meeting, are very critical, because then if there were any questions during the audit committee meeting where you feel as a chairman that the external auditor did not express himself or herself the way it should be, because there was a fear of anything, you would then pose that question at the in-meeting after the board meeting, because then you ask a very specific question to say, when I was asking you about impairments, you did not answer my question clearly. Is there anything that you wish to tell me? So that's why those meetings are important pre and post during the interim results and your financial statements, which is your year-end result. Whilst we're on the pre and post, there was a question to say, how are these recorded? The in-meetings after the audit committee meetings are only recorded for the purposes of the audit committee. So that if there are any issues that the audit committee wish to follow in the pre-meetings in the next meeting of the audit committee, they can say, these are the issues that we've raised, we need to understand how the external auditor has managed those issues. So that is why we don't record, as a company secretary, we don't record the pre-meetings and the post-meetings. I hope that clarifies the question.
It clarifies it for me, at least. I'm still wondering, what were the Enron audit committees do? I'm sorry, I can't relate. I mean, if I listen to this simulation, anyway.
Just
But now there was a question about the effectiveness and the non-attendance.
Yeah, so just on the effectiveness, remember the CEO is not a member of this committee, they're an invitee. So when the assessment was done by the board, they evaluated the 3 members, the 1 member is not here. So that's how they said we were effective as a committee. So if the CEO doesn't attend, he's not part of the committee. So I hope that clarifies that question. CEO is a bit errant, so we didn't have a pre-meeting with him, but you should have a pre-meeting with your CEOs as well. We didn't do one yet, but yeah, it is imperative that you meet with all those invitees as well. In terms of the CRO, what can we do? Normally your audit committee members are also members of the board. And you do have, I think it's the non-executive directors have a pre-meeting before the actual board meeting. So you can raise those concerns. And I think in this scenario, it is pretty apparent that the chief executive member, which is the CRO in this case, is a bit errant. They're not fulfilling their duties, not attending meetings. There's various concerns and complaints. So you can address that in the meeting, because it's coming up to this high level. And you can then address it with the CEO as well through that. And obviously we can, like we say, maybe we should have input into the CRO's performance. It's not, but they come into this meeting. So there are steps you can take. I think the risk we might run sometimes is, turning a blind eye or forgetting about the issue. And when it comes, we say, what did you do about it? I think our step is saying, hey, maybe we should evaluate this person now, as we're evaluating the company secretary and the CFO. So I think that's important to note. I think sometimes people say, what can we do? Our hands are tied. What's our authority? And I think as an audit committee, you do have a quite high level and senior level of authority in the organization. And there are things you can do, be it an evaluation, be it a meeting, calling them to order, asking for written reports, holding them accountable. So I think that is important.
Just to answer the question around why there isn't pre-meeting with the company secretary. There are always pre-meetings with the company secretary, with all the chairmen of the board subcommittees. So I had my committee meeting with my chair in one of the rooms outside. And mainly the questions that the company secretary is always been asked is there any matter that you would like the chairman or the audit committee have sight of that is not in the report before they sign their financial statements. But there's always, I think, pre-meetings with the company secretary, but normally in terms of best practice, they're not reflected in the simulation of the audit committee. They always happen at the back of the room, which is today we also had our own meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
I would imagine, because you look like you were doing synchronized swimming. Everything you did, he knew. Let's take the last batch of questions. Cindy, do you All right.
Thank you, Program Director. I just wanted to add on the answer to the pre-meetings. One of the things that kill efficiency in meetings is that management prepare documents or the external auditors, the audit committee or whoever governance structure, they come in and say, no, we're not approving because of 1, 2, 3. We're not approving. So you can imagine the cycle of inefficiency because things have to go back from meeting to meeting. So the other great purpose of a pre-meeting is that you can be able to tell people what are the things that you do not like before the meeting so that by the time the actual meeting starts, the document has been upgraded to a position where it can actually be approved. Then in that way, if there was something that was supposed to be approved in the February meeting, it indeed gets approved. Instead of saying, in the meeting, we don't like 1, 2, 3 change, and then it goes to the June meeting, another paragraph is forgotten, we don't like it, go and change, then it comes back in the next meeting. So it actually helps in the efficiency of achieving your objectives as the governance structure, whichever it is.